a decisive response to the aggressor that will echo through the annals of history. To the fearless architects of this victory, to every officer and soldier, heirs of our martyrs, their names are forever engraved in glory. A decisive response to the mothers of our martyrs, to the aggressor, their courage that will guides our path forward through the annals of history shall never be to the fearless in vain, architects inshallah, of this God victory willing. And to every Pakistani and soldier you stood as one our unbreakable their names are forever engraved in glory. Decisive to the mothers of our martyrs, to the aggressor in a courage of strength guides our path forward through the and the sacrifice facilitated by the fearless in vain architects inshallah of this victory and visionary every Pakistani and soldier deep appreciation one our unbreakable their names are forever engraved in glory. Decisive to the mothers of our martyrs, to the aggressor in a courage than provocative leadership. India's unilateral and illegal attempt to hold the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance defies the provisions of the treaty itself as well as the norms of international law. Pakistan has made it abundantly clear, and let there be no doubt once again in anybody's mind, as I said last year,
in this hall, from this podium, we will definitely and ardently defend, inshallah, the inseparable right of our 240 million people on these waters. To us, any violation of this Indus Treaty represents an act of war. Ladies and gentlemen, through this august house, I wish to assure the Kashmiri people that I stand with them. The people of Pakistan stand with them. And one day soon, inshallah, India's tyranny in Kashmir will come to a grinding halt. Kashmir will gain
its fundamental right to self-determination through an impartial plebiscite under the auspices of this very organization, United Nations. Excellencies, the plight of the Palestinian people is one of the most heart-wrenching tragedies of our times. This prolonged injustice is a stain on the global conscience and our collective moral failure. For nearly 80 years, the Palestinians have courageously endured Israel's brutal occupation of their homeland in the West Bank. Each passing day brings new brutality illegal settlers who terrorize and kill with impunity, and nobody can challenge them and question them. And in Gaza, Israel's genocidal onslaught has unleashed unspeakable terror upon women and children in a manner we have not witnessed in annals of history. In blind pursuit of its nefarious goals, the Israeli leadership has unleashed a shameful campaign against the innocent Palestinians, which history will always remember as one of its darkest chapters. But speak we must, Madam President, we must speak and speak loud and clear. Our words are too little, too late for Hind Rajab, a child, nay, a little baby. We have all heard her trembling voice on that phone call, which little Hind made as she struggled to stay alive under Israeli onslaught and atrocities. Can you imagine that little girl, Hind Rajab, as if she was our daughter? Can you imagine not having the compassion to spare her life? My agony and the agony of the entire Muslim Ummah, indeed, I think, the agony of all the nations on the planet is that we failed Hind Rajab, and she will not forgive us in this world and the world hereafter. As they say, ladies and gentlemen, the smallest coffins are the heaviest to carry. I, for one, would know, for I too carried the tiny coffin of a 7-year-old Irtiza Abbas during the recent confrontation with India. He was only 6 years old. Therefore, we cannot and we must not fail these children of Gaza or any child anywhere in the world. We must find a path to a ceasefire now and just now. Pakistan firmly supports Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan firmly supports the demand of the Palestinian people for the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state with pre-1967 borders and Al-Quds Sharif as its capital. Palestine can no longer remain under Israeli shackles. It must be liberated, and liberated with full commitment and with full force. Excellencies, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we were among the first to recognize Palestinian statehood in 1988. And now we welcome the recognition of the state of Palestine by a number of countries recently around the globe, and urge others to also follow suit, because time and tide wait for none. We are further grateful for President Trump's timely initiative to invite Arab Islamic states 3 days ago here in this building for a consultative session at the United Nations. And I was also part of that consultative process. And I think, and I hope and pray to God that it has rekindled hope for a ceasefire in the nearest future, for which the credit must again be attributed to President Trump for this peace initiative. Excellencies, Israel's recent attack on Doha and its continued violations of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of numerous countries is reflective of its rogue behavior. Pakistan stands unwaveringly with our brothers and sisters in Qatar. We also support all efforts for a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict in line with the UN Charter to end human sufferings and global turmoil caused by this protracted war. Madam President, Pakistan condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. For over 2 decades, Pakistan has been at the front line of global counter-terrorism efforts, having suffered over 90,000 people. We lost 90,000 people of our country, babies, children, mothers, sisters, brothers, elderly people, doctors, engineers, and also suffered economic loss of $150 billion. Please tell me, put your hand on your heart, that what can be a bigger manifestation of our commitment to fight terrorism and erase it not only from the face of Pakistan, but from the face of this global world. And I believe a man killed in New York is a man killed in Lahore, a man killed in Islamabad is a man killed in London. It's a global village. So I think unless and until terrorism is defeated hands down, this world will not be a peaceful place to live. And for that, Pakistan's sacrifices are probably the biggest around the globe. It must be respected and appreciated because we are a bulwark. Had these terrorists not been encountered by us, they would have been roaming on the streets of New York and London and God knows Far East. So I think this is our humble contribution, not only for the people of Pakistan, but the people all over the world. Today we face externally sponsored terrorism, particularly from foreign-funded groups such as the TTP, Fitna al-Khawarij, Fitna al-Hindustan, BLA, and its Majid Brigade. Operating from Afghan soil, these groups are responsible for some of the most heinous attacks inside Pakistan, including the dastardly Jafar Express train incident earlier this year, the train was hijacked and 400 people were kept for days and weeks. And mercifully, by Allah Almighty's grace, our armed forces and law enforcing agencies were able to recover them. Now, as an immediate neighbor and a brotherly country of Afghanistan, Pakistan has a direct stake in a peaceful Afghanistan. We believe that the key to development and prosperity lies in regional stability and connectivity. Pakistan continues to engage with all partners to extend humanitarian assistance, promote economic recovery, and encourage inclusive political framework in Afghanistan. The interim Afghan government must, however, uphold human rights, including women's rights. Above all, we expect that Afghan interim government to take effective action against terrorist groups and to ensure that Afghan soil is not used for terrorism against any country. Ladies and gentlemen, there must be no space for hate speech, discrimination, or violence against any person or against any religion. Hate-driven ideologies such as India's Hindutva-driven extremism pose a danger to the entire world. While there is growing recognition of the dangers posed by Islamophobia, the imperative of effectively combating this menace can hardly be overemphasized. Pakistan welcomes the appointment of a UN Special Envoy to combat this scourge. Ladies and gentlemen, while we are confronted with the climate crisis, it demands the most urgent collective action. In 2022, Pakistan faced massive floods of humongous proportions that caused huge losses amounting to $34 billion and many valuable lives lost. This year again, we are dealing with another mega flood with thousands of villages washed away from the face of the earth, millions of people displaced, more than 1,000 killed, and billions of dollars of crop, livestock, and property washed away, lost to flood waters. Our nation stands united in these testing times. And we are dealing with this natural calamity with remarkable resilience by the grace of God. I have declared a climate emergency to cope with this challenge. The catastrophic floods of 2022 and 2025 this year are glaring examples of loss and damage caused due to climate change. Pakistan, to the contrary, my honorable guests in this hall and through the cameras around the globe, Pakistan contributes less than 1% of global emissions annually, yet it continues to face the relentless brunt and muddy waves of climate change. And then we are told to borrow loans and add on to our debt, huge debt pillars we have over the period of time. This is not fairness. This is not equality. This is not justice. This is not fair play. How can you expect a country which is a developing country facing humongous flood challenges every year due to climate change and no fault of ours, and yet we are told to borrow more loans? I think borrowing loan would be destroying your economy. We will be better off than not borrowing loan and standing on our own feet, working hard, tirelessly, blood and sweat, and we will, inshallah, make Pakistan a great country, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, while we deal with climate change, I bear good tidings on the domestic economic front. Socio-economic development and the welfare of our people are among my government's foremost priorities. We have successfully implemented deep-rooted structural macroeconomic reforms, modernized and broadened our taxation system, intensified efforts to mobilize productive investment, and embraced digitization, AI, and crypto as the tools of the future. Strategic partnerships, including our all-weather cooperation with China through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor under President Xi Jinping's landmark Belt and Road Initiative, are contributors to our progress as I speak. I admire the vision and foresight of President Xi Jinping, whose recently launched Global Governance Initiative, along with other global initiatives, offers a comprehensive framework for a more just, fair, and inclusive development. Excellencies, as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, Pakistan is playing its constructive role in conflict prevention. The unanimous adoption of Resolution 2788 under our presidency of the Council has renewed our collective commitment to multilateralism, respect for the UN Charter, and effective implementation of UN Security Council resolutions. Excellencies, at the end, let me assure you that Pakistan will always stand for peace, justice, and development, for a revitalized United Nations, and for cooperative and multilateralism that is fair and inclusive and delivers for all. Therefore, let this 80th anniversary not simply commemorate history, let us make history and chart a future for the next 80 years with these United Nations as enduring hope for global good. Let us truly strive to become better together. Thank you very much. United Nations, long live. God bless you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The Assembly will now hear an address by His Excellency Li Qihang, Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Mr. President, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of the World Anti-Fascist War. It is also the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. 80 years ago, fascism was defeated in fearless battles by countless heroic men and women around the world. And the United Nations was created upon their ideal of a world free of war, marking the beginning of an extraordinary journey of building the post-war international order and pursuing peace and development. The past 80 years have been tortuous but purposeful. Today, the UN is the world's most universal, representative, and authoritative intergovernmental organization. With an international system centered around the UN and an international order based on international law, human society has realized overall peace and achieved unprecedented levels of development and prosperity. The past 80 years have witnessed tectonic changes in our world. Straddling 2 centuries, this period saw human society leapfrog from the age of electricity and computers into a digital intelligence era. While the world we live in has changed enormously, the ideal of making it a better place remains unchanged. Looking back, we can draw a number of valuable inspirations. First, peace and development are the strongest aspiration shared by the people of all countries. Having gone through 2 world wars, we must never forget the bitter lessons learned through bloodshed and loss of lives. For 80 years, a generally peaceful international environment has led to remarkable growth in the global economy. Today, as the desire for peace and development grows even stronger around the world, it is incumbent upon our generation to further strengthen the force for peace and development. Second, solidarity and cooperation are the most powerful drivers for human progress. In the ferocious years of the World Anti-Fascist War, countries with different social systems, histories, and cultures rose above their differences, fought side by side, and prevailed together. In the 80 years that followed, they weathered a succession of vicissitudes, such as the Cold War standoff, financial crises, and global pandemics, by staying connected and working together. All this proves a simple yet powerful point. Solidarity lifts everyone up, while division drags all down. The road ahead might be hard and bumpy, but when all countries unite as one and collaborate in good faith, our strengths will converge into a mighty force with which we can withstand any headwind and cross any hurdle. Third, Fairness and justice are the most important values pursued by the international community. History keeps reminding us that when might dictates right, the world risks division and regression. Should the era of the law of the jungle return, and the weak be left as a prey to the strong, human society would face even more bloodshed and brutality. As members of the global family, we must uphold justice while pursuing our own interests. This is particularly true for the major countries. Only when all countries, big or small, are treated as equals and true multilateralism is practiced, can the rights and interests of all parties be better protected. At present, the world has entered a new period of turbulence and transformation. Unilateralism and Cold War mentality are resurfacing. The international rules and order built over the past 80 years are under serious challenge. And the once effective international system is constantly disrupted. The various problems induced are distressing and worrying. Humanity has once again come to a crossroads. Anyone who cares about the state of affairs in the world would want to ask, why couldn't we humans, having emerged from tribulations, adopt a greater sense of conscience and rationality, and treat each other with kindness and coexist in peace? How could we, in the face of deplorable incidents such as humanitarian disasters, turn a blind eye to atrocities that trample blatantly on fairness and justice and sit on our own hands? How could we, when confronted with unscrupulous acts of hegemonism and bullying, remain silent and submissive for fear of might? And how could we let the ardent passion and dedication of our forefathers in founding the UN simply fade into the pages of history? We Chinese people often say, "Never forget why you started, and you can accomplish your mission." Arriving at the UN headquarters this time, I saw over 190 national flags lined up in front of the building and fluttering in the breeze. I saw the sculptures, "Let us beat swords into plowshares," and "Nonviolence," with their time-tested message ever so loud. And I saw staff members from different regions, of different races, and with different skin colors, working in collaboration for the common goals of humanity. What I saw got me thinking. Those people, objects, and scenes that embody peace, progress, and development are exactly why we choose to commemorate victory. They are also what inspires us to forge ahead, hand in hand. While we may not be able to go back in time and relive the victory, we can definitely create a better future together. As a founding member of the UN, China has all along taken an active part in global affairs and worked for the betterment of humanity. Over the years, President Xi Jinping has put forward the vision of building a community with a shared future for humanity, the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Governance Initiative, sharing China's wisdom and solution for navigating global transformations and overcoming pressing challenges. In particular, the Global Governance Initiative, proposed at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Tianjin Summit at the beginning of this month, underscores the principles of adhering to sovereign equality, abiding by international rule of law, practicing multilateralism, advocating the people-centered approach, and focusing on taking real actions. It points the right direction and provides an important pathway for building a more just and equitable global governance system. China is ready to take coordinated and effective actions together with all sides to offer more concrete solutions and promote world peace and development. First, amid the volatility and turbulence in the world, we must work together for peace and shared security. All countries belong to the same global village and rely on each other for security. We should uphold the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, and respect the legitimate security concerns of all countries. We should settle differences and disputes peacefully through dialogue and consultation. Persisting in camp-based confrontation or willful resort to force only drives peace further away. China has all along acted as a staunch defender of world peace and security. China is the second largest contributor to UN peacekeeping budget and the largest provider of peacekeepers among the permanent members of the Security Council. China has been working actively to promote peace talks on hotspot issues such as the Ukraine crisis and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. China will continue to play a constructive role in promoting the political settlement of hotspot issues. Second, amid sluggish global growth, we must reinvigorate cooperation and pursue win-win results. A major cause of the current global economic doldrums is the rise in unilateral and protectionist measures, such as tariff hikes and erection of walls and barriers. We should collaborate more closely to identify and expand convergence of interests, promote universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization, and help each other succeed by moving forward in the same direction. China has always been a key driver of global common development. Over the years, the Chinese economy has maintained steady development, contributing around 30% to global economic growth. China has consistently opened its door wider to the world. It has lowered its overall tariff level to 7.3%, and remained the world's second-largest importer for 16 consecutive years. China has also advanced high-quality Belt and Road cooperation with over 150 countries. Currently, China is taking solid steps to promote high-quality development at home, with a focus on expanding domestic demand. China has the confidence and capability to keep its economy on an upward trajectory and continue to provide important support for global economic growth. Third, amid dynamic interactions among civilizations, we must champion dialogue and mutual enlightenment. Every civilization has its unique value and heritage, and deserves acknowledgement and respect. Obsession with so-called civilizational superiority or ideology-based circles only breeds more division and confrontation. Adopting an inclusive attitude and engaging in exchange and mutual learning is a sure way to build more consensus and collective strength. China has all along engaged in active civilizational exchange and mutual learning. Over the next 5 years, China will carry out 50 development cooperation programs in the field of culture and civilization for fellow developing countries, and host 200 thematic training and seminar programs, contributing its part to inter-civilizational dialogue and the progress of civilizations. Fourth, amid emerging challenges, we must respond with concrete efforts and protect our shared home. Climate change is a major challenge confronting all of us. We should uphold the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, promote the effective implementation of the Paris Agreement, and enhance international collaboration on the green economy. In recent years, technologies such as artificial intelligence, network communications, and biomanufacturing have advanced rapidly. Along with the benefits, they also bring potential risks. We should adhere to the principles of people-centered development, technology for good, and equitable benefits, improve relevant governance rules at a faster pace, and strengthen global governance cooperation, so that technological progress could bring real benefits to humanity in a better way. China has always been a responsible stakeholder in addressing global challenges. Committed to green and low-carbon development, China has established the world's largest and fastest-growing renewable energy system, built the most extensive and complete new energy industrial chain, and announced China's 2035 nationally determined contributions that cover all economic sectors and all greenhouse gases. China has proposed the Global AI Governance Initiative and advocated the establishment of a World AI Cooperation Organization. This time during the 80th session, China will present to the UN the lunar soil samples collected by Chang'e 6 from the far side of the moon. Going forward, China will take more proactive actions and work with all parties to advance global governance in relevant areas. Colleagues, China stands ready to work with all members to uphold the standing and authority of the UN, safeguard the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, support UN reforms to improve its efficiency and capacity to fulfill its mandate, and advocate greater representation and voice of developing countries. China will work with the UN to set up a China-UN Global South-South Development Facility and provide it with $10 million in budgetary support.
China will also partner with the United Nations Development Program to establish a global center for sustainable development in Shanghai to accelerate the implementation of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The tide of history surges forward, and the Great Way remains smooth and steadfast. Going forward, China will continue doing its best to contribute to global peace and development. China hopes to work with the rest of